Hello guys, welcome back to the Brutal Investor channel. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day today. In this episode, we're going to talk about a project called AERGO or AERGO. And this project is a blockchain based project that I want to cover today. And I find this project very interesting, and therefore I wanted to share this project with you guys. So as always, if you guys want to do your own research, which I highly suggest you guys to do, please go to their website aergo.io, that is aergo.io, and you can find all their information. So right off the bat, they have a really cool website. I'm also really liking their symbol. It's kind of like this weird eight, or a eight cut at the bottom, right? But anyway, moving on to the project itself. What is this project? Again, I mentioned that it's a blockchain project. It's a blockchain for business, and their main catchphrase is unlock your business potential, right? So what do they mean by that? So if you see, this is a project that aims to provide high performance, high availability, as well as scale hybrid architecture, right? So if you see, scaling is one of the most common problems that we're facing with the Ethereum blockchain. Although it's going to be like a short-term problem, this has provided more opportunities for several blockchain projects, right? And some of the famous blockchain projects that you guys know that are trying to compete with Ethereum are basically Binance Smart Chain, Polkadot, Cardano is going to bring its own smart contract ecosystem, and there's Flow blockchain that we also covered. We also covered the Phantom Opera, as well as Avalanche. So Ergo is also trying to get into the blockchain, the rally, or the bandwagon, if you can say that, and it's trying to get some of its a fair market share from Ethereum, right? And what it's aiming to do is basically a blockchain that's solely created for business. And as like many other blockchains that try to compete with Ethereum, this blockchain is also a relatively new blockchain. Therefore, it has the options of being highly scalable and can provide high performance. It has high availability, which we'll cover in a few seconds, and it has a scalable hybrid architecture. Again, these days, if you are trying to create a blockchain, you better make scalability as a fundamental part of the blockchain, because if it's not going to be scalable, there's no point in people using this, right? So again, I highly suggest you guys to read some of their some of the docs, which is found in the website. But you can also read through their GitHub. You can find their codes, and it was recently committed, or the GitHub commitments were made on March 22nd, so it's relatively recent. So there is good updates going on. Notice and news. So Ergo 2021 vision and roadmap. So basically, since the Ergo mainnet upgrade to 2.0 update in late 2019, we have been working on, they're basically working on other projects. And again, when you try to click this one, it's kind of like taking some time. But if you see, they're basically trying to enhance the usability and scalability of the Ergo network, right? That's basically what they were trying to do. And they're trying to, again, if you read through this in detail, you'll probably find more information. They're trying to create this enterprise kind of blockchain, which can be leveraged by institutions, or people who want to create some advanced level dApps. They also have a mobile app that will be something that will be easy for people to use the blockchain on the go. And there's this marketplace, hackathon contests, and so on and so forth that they had developed, I think early to mid February, and that's kind of like one of their key features. You can also find similar articles and information. They've had this, they sponsored basically Blocko's dApp contest on 22nd of March. They also completed the smart contract migration, which is also something that most projects trying to do, because they want to have smart contract capability, and that's one of the main reasons why they created the blockchain in the first place. Because if you don't have smart contracts in your fundamentals, you don't really have an option to grow in the crypto space in the current scenario, at least, right? So again, if you see, they have some really cool case studies, and one of the case studies is basically AERGO was kind of like considered for provincial government. If you see, the first amongst domestic provincial governments to adopt blockchains, which is a very cool feature. If you see, there are governments in different parts of the world that are trying to adapt blockchain technology slowly, but steadily, right? It's catching on. If you click read through, you'll be able to understand which you can read through the case study in detail. I just want to show you guys, they haven't really mentioned it as of yet. If you see, it's G provincial government successful development and promotion of a reputation as a province that achieved technological democracy by adopting blockchain electronic voting for the first time in Korea. Again, South Korea is becoming this DeFi slash blockchain hub, crypto hub of the planet, and they are trying to slowly and steadily adopt crypto at a much faster pace compared to many other countries. And it's really interesting to see this case study being presented on AERGO's website, because a province in South Korea has adopted AERGO blockchain as a part of its technological democracy by using AERGO blockchain to use it for voting, okay, and use AERGO blockchain for voting for the first time in Korea, which is really impressive to see. You don't really get these kind of news pretty commonly, and you can kind of read through this case study. It's very well laid out and very interesting. You can also find other case studies as well, G provincial government. So that's very interesting. That's kind of caught my eye, and I just wanted to share that with you guys, because when I do research, I try to see if there's any form of I'm, as a channel name suggests, it's trying to make people understand the crypto space so that they can invest in it after doing their own research, obviously, and become brutally rich, right? That's mainly the goal of this channel. And when I see projects that that I feel like is going to get massive adoption in the future, especially when provincial governments kind of start adopting projects, that's something that's very hard for me to miss covering in this channel. So again, I'm trying my best to cover projects that not only have short-term potential but also have long-term potential. And as you see, it's very hard to find projects, because there's like 1,000 different projects coming in every single day, and only a handful of those will have any form of success in the mid to short term, like mid to long term goal, right? Although it's the middle of the bull market, so any coin is going to like literally fly and make some sick gains in the short term. But that's not really our main focus. We do want to make good short term gains as well, don't get me wrong, but it's news like this that makes me feel like there's still a long way to go when it comes to cryptocurrencies as well as DeFi, right? Instead of rambling on, I just want to move on. If you see, the first among domestic provincial governments to adopt blockchain, the first electronic voting projects based on smart contracts. Again, pretty interesting phenomena, if you ask me, for a blockchain that is relatively new and is actually under many people's radar right now, right? So Blockco launches in UAE. Blockco, the South Korean enterprise blockchain provider backed by Samsung, has launched in the UAE after raising funding in Asia Pacific and Europe, the company said. So again, very interesting phenomenon that we just saw right now, where a province in Korea South Korea had adopted AERGO as a means by which they can vote, or as a voting means on the smart contract blockchain, right? Such as AERGO. But if you see, Blockco is a South Korean enterprise blockchain provider, which is, again, if you see, there's strong connections with South Korea here, that provides, and it's backed by Samsung. So Blockco is a enterprise blockchain provider which is backed by Samsung. If you guys don't know, Samsung is very highly invested in blockchain projects. They also run nodes on Theta blockchain, They're also partnered with multiple other blockchain-based projects. Some of them relatively well known, some of them are less well known, but they're also invested in Blocko. And if you see, Blocko has basically launched in the UAE, which is the United Arab Emirates, after raising funding in Asia Pacific and Europe. The company has said, right? So basically, Blocko launches in UAE, and what does that have to do with Ergo? Ergo is actually, I think it's linked with Blocko. Blocko is linked with Ergo, right? If you read through this, you'll be able to find it somewhere here. So Blocko will team up with Ergo, an operating platform to implement a hybrid public-private blockchain technology for both government and enterprises in the UAE. Again, this is huge. If you guys don't know much about the Middle East and the UAE, UAE is one of the most famous tourist destinations in the world. It's one of the most popular countries for tourism, and it's known for its grandiose kind of like investments, lifestyle, people, and many things, right? So UAE is one of the most friendliest countries when it comes to cryptocurrencies. There are lots of investors from the UAE who have invested billions and billions of dollars in cryptocurrency. They are going leaps and bounds when it comes to adopting blockchain technology, making cryptocurrency as a legitimate currency or commodity, unlike many other countries that try to ban cryptocurrencies. So UAE, Blocko is basically partnering up with Ergo. Again, remember, Blocko is one of the many enterprise blockchains that is backed by Samsung, right? And Blocko is basically teaming up with Ergo in order to implement hybrid private public blockchain technology. Again, if you ask me, private blockchains are not necessarily going to be a thing in the future, because if you can have completely decentralized public blockchains, which are in many cases fully capable of being governed by the people. If you see, decentralized autonomous organizations or DAOs are basically decentralized entities which are basically governments in the blockchains, right? When it comes to private blockchains, they are still controlled by a centralized entity, right? It's held by a private entity. So although the news is not all great or all exciting, because Blocko and Ergo are basically teaming up in order to create a public-private enterprise blockchain. It's still really good news, and this is going to kick a lot of adoption, right? And we need to see these kind of initial privatized blockchains coming into mainstream financial services as well as mainstream business services. We will see a lot of people being comfortable with the cryptocurrencies as well as the DeFi ecosystem, and they will start slowly realizing that decentralized public blockchains are the way to go in the future, right? Although, for the short term, private blockchains are going to be useful. My personal opinion is, in the long term, public blockchains are going to be the main hubs, not only for business, financials, as well as governments, but it's going to be the literal, like the commonplace, right? Basically, you will find public blockchains for literally everything. But the news here is, these two entities, Blocko as well as Ergo, are partnering to create a hybrid public-private blockchain technology for both government and enterprises in the UAE. So if you see, there's a lot of enterprises as well as institutions and corporations that are slowly adopting cryptocurrencies as well as blockchain technology and all that stuff, which is fairly commonplace. If you see early 2021 and 2020, you can clearly, late 2020, you can kind of see the institutions are definitely getting into cryptocurrency as well as blockchain technology, right? But if you see the government of UAE, that's where the main kicker lies, right? The government of UAE, which is one of the most wealthiest governments in the world, is starting to use blockchain technology. And one of the projects that they're working with is Blocko, which is teamed up with Ergo in order to facilitate a private public blockchain, hybrid blockchain for their purposes, right? Which is a big deal. Again, I would definitely want you guys to read through this whole article. It's mind blowing because AERGO blockchain is definitely going to places. It's also one of the blockchains that I can see being adopted by multiple different countries. It's specifically built for business people, right? So business people are where money usually comes from. The legit money comes from the massive billions of dollars that can be tapped from the businesses. Is a huge, is going to be huge for the cryptocurrency space itself. And the fact that governments are itself using this blockchain is incredibly mind blowing for a project that's literally under the radar right now, right? Papers and books. Again, you can also read through other practical case studies that they've presented on their website, which is very interesting. If you see, they basically don't really talk a lot about their own blockchain itself, because if you see any blockchain website you take, right, they're basically going to say the exact same thing. They say that their blockchain is scalable, and they provide like several big paragraphs of how their blockchain is scalable, and how it's better when it comes to reducing fees and higher transaction speeds and all that. But AERGO website, based on what we are seeing right now, it doesn't waste time in explaining what key features it is, because AERGO kind of realized that people are already aware that they're basically seeking other blockchains because Ethereum is not scalable. So you don't have to spend like 50 or 60% of your website explaining to people why AERGO is better blockchain, right? They just have this beautiful pictorial representation of what they're basically going to do. High performance, obviously, high availability, and scalable hybrid architecture. Again, these are some of the three components, but they're spending a lot of time not only focusing on the GitHub projects as well as the news and notice. They're also spending a lot of time explaining to people how people and governments, businesses and governments are already using the AERGO blockchain. And this is what people should really focus on, because who gives a damn about whether the project is scalable, and who wants to read paragraphs and paragraphs of how this blockchain is better than 1,000 other blockchains, right? We don't really need to know that. We just need to know if this blockchain is actually being used in the real life scenario. And based on some of the examples that we saw, the one of the Korean provinces has already used AERGO blockchain. The UAE's government, as well as businesses or enterprises in the UAE, are working very closely with AERGO to use their blockchain-based services for their own private public hybrid blockchains. And you can also see some other information as well, which again, not really about great adoption, but it's about a business adoption, and that's still important, right? So again, these are some of the practical information that many other blockchain-based projects should kind of learn to incorporate in their website. Okay, if you are creating a project that's not actually solving a real life problem, then there is no real point in like explaining on the website and having like a big website with a lot of unnecessary information, right? Just get straight to the point and show the real life use case scenario, right? So let's go to the CoinGecko page for AERGO, and you can clearly see that this project is ranked 375th on CoinGecko based on market cap, and it's currently trading at 42 cents per token, right? And it recently had a 25.7% increase in the past 24 hours. Again, let me tell you why this is still, even after having this 26% increase in the past 24 hours, it's still relatively undervalued. Look at the market cap here, okay? So again, South Korea is one of the giants when it comes to technological development in the Asian market, right? And not only the Asian market, but also in the entire world, because South Korea has some really powerful industries like automobile, technology, as well as it's one of the powerful economic powerhouse in all of Asia. And one of the provinces of South Korea has used AERGO blockchain, right? if you see UAE, it's a big powerhouse in the Middle East and obviously in the world as well. One of the most technologically advanced countries in the world. They are very tech savvy, and they're trying to make use of all of these early projects so that they can be one of the forefronts in adopting this technology, right? And two big countries have kind of used this project, right? And you can still see the market cap is $107 million. So we have covered. If you guys are following this channel actively, you can remember, if you remember some of the projects that we've covered that has had $150 million in market cap, $350 million in market cap, $250 million in market cap. There are projects that we've covered for the short term which have literally copied and pasted their codes, or forked their codes, or don't really have a lot of severe use cases, and they're probably really good for the short term but not really necessarily for the long term, right? If you guys want to check out those videos, I highly recommend you guys to skim through my channel and check out those videos. But a project that's literally being adopted by countries, like governments, right, and big businesses and enterprises, and it only has a market cap of $107 million. So let that sink in for a second. And if you are to invest in this project, again, not financial advice, please do your own research. I'm not suggesting anyone to buy this project, buy this token. You have to do your own research before you come to this conclusion, right? I'm just presenting my side of the story, and I'm going to give some of the reasons why I am going to buy this token. That does not mean that you should ape in and YOLO in and buy a significant chunk of this token without doing your research, right? You obviously have to do your own research. But the point is, when countries adopt this project and the market cap is still less than $150 million, it's slightly above $100 million, right? It's still very early. I believe that this project is going to explode in the future. This is a project that will continue to exist for for several decades, right? This is definitely a long-term player, and I believe that this project is not only helping bring more adoption from the businesses, but also trying to onboard governments, which are some of the toughest entities to bring into the blockchain, because the main selling feature for cryptocurrencies as well as blockchain technology is to make everything decentralized and to ultimately make the governments worthless, right? But if the governments themselves are adopting blockchains, then that's definitely telling you something, and this project is making that happen. And for a market cap of this number, you are definitely you're in for a bargain. If you get in early, you're going to be one of the few early adopters. If Korea as well as UAE can adopt this, it's only going to be a matter of time before Switzerland or some of the other, Singapore, some of the other crypto friendly countries will start adopting this project. And then in over a matter of years, you can probably hear the UK government using this project, the American government using this project, the Canadian government, the German government, the Australian government. So some big names will be coming into crypto, and they will most likely use potential projects like AERGO as their main blockchain solution, right? Anyway, I don't want to ramble too long, but I just wanted to share my thoughts, right, about the long-term potential of this project. If you look at the max supply, 500 million tokens, right? Again, if you guys are a long-term, if you guys have been following this channel for a long while, you would know that I have my own threshold on what I would consider as an optimal max supply. If it's less than or equal to 100 million tokens as max supply, that's going to be something that I would personally invest in. Unless otherwise, I strongly find some very strong fundamentals that will kind of make me oversee that barrier, right? If it's a token that has more than 100 million tokens and as max supply, and it does not have any real life use cases, or if it's just a copy and paste of another successful project, I personally won't invest in it. Or even if I invest in it, I'll probably invest in it only for the short term, right? Not for long term. But this project obviously is going to be an exception, because I Obviously the 100 million token criteria that I have in my mind is not being met. So that does not mean that I'm not going to be investing in this project. It's just that after I've seen case studies like that, I'm definitely going to invest in this project, and there's nothing really that's going to stop me, right? I've already made up my mind, but I'm just telling you guys that you have to obviously do your own due diligence, and you need to have your own criteria for choosing a particular token, right? My criteria is if it's a token that's less than 100 million tokens or equal to 100 million tokens, that would be like a factor to buy. This token has 500 million tokens as max supply, and its circulating supply is 264 million tokens, which is again about 50%, which is also a really good sign. So the short-term inflation is going to be very low, right? But the max supply, I'm definitely going to oversee this because it has very strong potential to grow. Again, as I was rambling on like a few seconds ago, this project is going to be one of the long-term holds, and this max supply doesn't really matter because at one point of time, this token is going to be extremely scarce, and that's going to also drive this token's price up, right? So let's go to the charts, and if you see the charts, you can clearly see that there are people who are actually following this token, and even though it's relatively under the radar, it is kind of like being noticed by people. But let's look at the history of this token, and if you see, this token has been there since December 20th of 2018, right? And we have the price information from December 20th, and it was worth 12 cents at the time. It had an instant dip at and reached 5 cents per token before exploding to a price of 44 cents per token on 10th of April 2019, and then crashing and reaching 14 cents per token, and then kind of like hit a bit of a bump, and then kind of was at its all-time lows of 2 cents per token. Okay, again, if you look at the project itself and how the governments are slowly adopting this project, if you had bought in at this price range, you definitely have done well for yourself. And on the first week of February 2021, the token price started going up in literally like the vertical line, and it kind of hit an all-time high of about 45 cents per token, and then now it's having this consolidation period, but it's not consolidating in the lower ranges for too long. It is coming up, and it's coming up really quick. So if you guys want to wait a bit on the price point, you can probably get this token at around 35 to 37 cents. Again, it's a very volatile token, so I suggest you guys to be very cautious. If you want to buy this token at this price point, I would probably suggest not to, because there is a definite, it's still relatively close to its all-time highs, which is basically 45 cents, right? There is a chance that this token can reach 35 to 37 cents per token, or even lower than that, which would probably be a good entry point. So I'm basically waiting for a good entry point for this token, and once I get once I see this token kind of reaching the 37 to 35 cents range, I'm going to buy a decent bag of it, right? If you look at the Bitcoin comparative, on the other hand, there's a very different picture that you're going to see from the Bitcoin comparative, right? If you see similarly from 28th of December, 22nd December 2018, the token price was worth 2,400 satoshis, and then it exploded, reaching 9,000 satoshis at its maximum point, and then crashed down, reached 2,200 again, and then had its all-time lows at around 300 400 satoshi range, and it was moving sideways for quite some time. And if you see, even after the Bitcoin price was kind of like consolidating, this token didn't really perform well with the Bitcoin comparative. It's still at its relative all-time lows. And if you want to buy this token with Bitcoin, this is the perfect time to enter this token, right? It may probably go down a bit more further and reach 650 satoshis or 670 satoshis in that range, but again, it's not going to stay at this price point when it comes to Bitcoin comparative for long, right? So when it comes to dollar comparative, I personally wouldn't invest in this token. I'm probably going to wait for this to go down a bit. My price target is 37 cents to 35 cents, and that's probably when I'm going to slowly start dollar cost averaging this token. But if you see the Bitcoin comparative, it's a really good buy opportunity, right? Again, not financial advice, please do your own research. But if I had some spare Satoshis, which I unfortunately don't, I'm obviously earning yield on my Bitcoins. But if you guys do have some spare Satoshis or even a spare Bitcoin or two, whatever, depending on how much Bitcoins you hodl and how much Bitcoin you plan to trade into altcoins, and after doing your own research, obviously, I would probably enter into this token at this Satoshi price, right? So a very interesting chart indeed. So if you look at the exchanges, it is available on Binance. You can buy it with BTC and BUSD. You can also buy it from other exchanges, but I don't know why you would want to choose other exchanges when you can get it on Binance. Again, now that this token is also available on Binance, you can clearly see that this token is relatively under noticed. Nobody's really talking about this token. It has a relatively low market cap for the exponential potential that this token can produce, and it's definitely backed by Samsung, and it is definitely getting some really heavy hitter adoption, right? So again, if you what's my final verdict on this token? If you want to hold a few altcoins, um, and if you want to hold some really undervalued altcoins that is going to literally do a 10x or even 50x, okay, and a token that is definitely solid, which has some incredible adoption from the governments of some of the most popular countries in the world, this is probably the one of the very few. You only have a handful of tokens. You can even probably count it with one of your hands, right? You only have a handful of tokens that are extremely undervalued, despite the fact that some countries have actually adopted them, right? And you guys know that new blockchain based projects such as third generation blockchain projects that aim to scale extremely well and have high throughput with low transaction fees are going to definitely succeed. And as this project starts growing, it's going to be highly interoperable with other projects, including Ethereum 2.0, and that's going to bring it more adoption, right? But before that happens, you might want to do your own research and try to get in on this token, because this token is not going to be at this market cap for too long. It's not going to be at this price point for too long. I can probably anticipate that this token price can go, by the end of this bull run, it's going to definitely cross $1. It's very obvious. It can reach an all-time highs of, $3 to $4 or even $5 by the end of this bull run. And depending on how well they get adopted by more businesses and more governments, this token can even cross like $7 to $10 range, right? In the span of few years, and that's going to be incredibly cool for early adopters like us, right? Again, remember guys, you guys are not regular investors, you guys are brutal investors, so stay brutal. Thank you very much for watching my video, guys. If you like my video, please click the like button and subscribe for more videos. See you in my next video. Bye.